I'm Eric Kelly from KellyPlanet.com. This is a closer look at Star Trek Lower Decks Season 2, Episode 2, KAYSHON, His Eyes Open. Before we even get started here, the title KAYSHON, His Eyes Open means we're going to have Tamarians in this episode. Well, actually, it's just one. They were referenced in Season 1 from the TNG episode Darmok, but we haven't seen one yet on Lower Decks.
Engage.
Stardate 58001.2. Those who spend their lives and fortunes gathering scientific rarities from around the galaxy call themselves collectors.
The collectors are a reference to the TNG episode The Most Toys, where Kivas Fajo kidnapped Data. Just from that glimpse, it looks like this is going to be a reference smorgasbord, so I'll tackle that later. The owner of that collector ship has died, and the Cerritos has been asked to help go through his items in case any are dangerous.
Wasn't he the one who tried to collect data?
They all tried to collect data.
See, they've referenced collecting data, like I said. Since Shax was killed in the first season finale, we have a new head of security, Lieutenant KAYSHON, who is Tamarian. Told you.
Rapunki, when he joined the Seven.
I'm just going to go out on a limb here, but since Jack Quaid is in this show, Rapunki joining the Seven could be a reference to the boys.
Sorry. The universal translator doesn't always.
If you aren't familiar with Tamarians, they natively speak in metaphor, which they make a point of in this show. Oh my god, there's so much stuff. Since Boimler is on the Titan at the moment, we need another character to fill in. So they use Lieutenant Manhaver from the first season. Notice he's not a lieutenant anymore. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, but the Titan's such a big deal. I bet he's living the dream.
Mr. Boimler, attack pattern Delta. Target the aft shields. Let's see how these packlets do with their aft hanging out.
Yes, sir.
I noted this in a previous episode. Life on the Titan is way more exciting than the Cerritos, and Boimler may have bitten off more than he can chew.
We're your away team reporting for duty.
It is a pleasure to meet you, and I look forward to, Darmok and Jalad on the ocean.
That's a direct quote from the TNG episode Darmok.
Yeah, about time, Starfleet. What you do, stop to debate the human rights of a robot?
That's a reference to the TNG Exocomp episode Quality of Life. Oh, here we go. I'm going to freeze frame this stuff and try to catch everything. I'm sure I won't. Above the door are mounted weapons on the left. The top one, my brain told me, was used by a Vulcan executioner, but that's wrong, and I can't seem to figure it out, so maybe you can help me. Below that is a Lurpa used by Kirk and Spock for Caliphie in the episode Amok Time. To the right, and thank goodness I know some stuff, that's an Ushan Tor used by Archer and Shran in the Enterprise episode United. Then we have a Klingon Batleth and Mekleth, and that's just the beginning. I see a Terran Empire flag on the wall. That hexagonal game to the right, I cannot remember. Help me out with that too, maybe. That's a contemporary to us Mars rover right behind them. That was the game from TNG, and I see what could be Cisco's baseball below that. This is fast. That's Lwaxana's gift box from TNG, which was done by Armin Shimmerman in Quark. I'm going to take a little break until the next collector scene. Switching over to the Titan, Riker figures out that the Packleds are after Veruvian ore. This seems a bit advanced for the Packleds, so Starfleet is sending the Titan to Carswell Ford to investigate. Oh no, more collector's stuff. There's a statue of a huge salt vampire from the TOS episode The Man Trap. That's at least the third reference so far on Lower Decks. A case of wine from Chateau Picard. In the foreground is Kahless the Unforgettable's fornication helmet. He is a Klingon religious icon from TNG. In the background is Odo's bucket from DS9. There's Riker's trombone. That's Data's mask from the TNG episode Masks, and a foil because of Picard and Guinan fencing. I'm not going to bother looking up the other two swords. They set off a security system, and KAYSHON gets zapped and turned into a puppet. And the away team moves to another part of the collector's ship, trying to get to the escape pods. There is a portrait of a cat on the wall that is supposed to be Data's cat Spot, though I don't see the resemblance. So, in the Hall of Skeletons, I think that's supposed to be a Gorn. We, of course, have the bones from Spock 2 from the animated series episode The Infinite Vulcan. I'm gonna guess Mr. Hornhead back there is a Megado.
Uh-oh, I think you triggered some kind of network response.
Oh, what are they gonna do? Suck us to death? They're gonna suck us to death?
Space Roombas. There's Abraham Lincoln and an Excalbion, both from the TOS episode The Savage Curtain. Boimler's away team infiltrates the Pack-led mining operation.
Ain't you're lucky. Huh? It's a pile of snacks.
Hey, those miners are stealing our snacks!
But they get caught and have to get out of there. Faced with impending doom from the space Roombas, Mariner and Manhaver decide it's time to listen to Tandy and Rutherford, because the nerds know.
As if you say it is, buddy.
Stay alert, stay alive.
Damn!
The Pack-Leads have the away team cornered and the Titan can't beam them to safety
Requesting emergency transport.
Get them out of there.
I can't, sir.
Why the hell not?
because there's transporter interference, because there always is when there needs to be.
I love that when Riker was on the Enterprise, he was out there jamming on the trombone and catching love disease and acting in plays and meeting his identical transporter clone Thomas.
That's a reference to the time that Riker got cloned by the transporter in the TNG episode Second Chances, which gives Boimler an idea on how to overcome the transporter distortion field.
Can't believe the captain has a transporter clone.
Yeah, Thomas Riker. He was created from a distortion field that was actually a lot like... What are you doing? We might not have to die. Initiating drill. Reversing the polarity.
They're always reversing polarity. Boimler gets himself and his team safely to the Titan, but there's a shuttle inbound from the planet, and it's a transporter clone copy of Boimler, just like what happened to Riker.
Oh man, a copy of me got transported out? Boo. I'm the transporter clone? Boo.
The distortion field must have... Oh, I've heard this tune before.
Riker decides that one Boimler has to return to the Cerritos as an ensign, while the other stays with him on the Titan. Original Boimler selflessly volunteers, and clone Boimler is like, yeah, I'm down with that.
Nah, I'm good to stay, but thanks, man.
Hey, you like Romulan ale?
Ah, I can learn.
Computer, play Nightbird.
The Nightbird reference is to a jazz piece that's requested by Deanna Troi in TNG, because Riker always missed that one note.
Whoa! Did you get double promoted? Congrats!
Huh? What do you mean?
You got a whole new pip right there.
Nah, just a piece of corn. That's always happening. Half the time when you see someone with wrong amount of pips around here, it's usually just delicious street corn.
Okay, so we do this whole pip thing with the corn, which I have been mentioning in previous videos. Manhaver was a lieutenant in the first season, but since the writers needed him to replace Boimler, he had to be an ensign, hence the corn gag. Since this clone thing happened, Boimler gets to be back on the Cerritos.
Oh my god, it's Boimler, it's my friend!
I got transporter cloned.
Ha Pay up.
Damn it!
Are you tired? Because you've been Arnak at the race of Natara through my mind all night. Well, shaka when the walls fell.
Shaka when the walls fell, another direct TNG quote. If I had to pick on this episode, well, it was fun. Obviously, they had to figure out a way to get Boimler back, and a transporter clone is as good a reason as any. There were so many blink and you'll miss it references, I'm sure I didn't get them all. There were some obvious things that had nothing to do with Trek, like the glaring red sneakers or the vintage arcade machine. I have to admit, after writing this script, I cheated and went through the commentary with Mike McMahon, Jonathan Frakes, and Jack Quaid to see if I can get any more information. Basically, no, they pointed out obvious stuff, but they did mention things I just couldn't find. I can literally jog through this frame by frame if I want to, and I think they were just talking about stuff that never made the final cut. That was Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 2, Episode 2, KAYSHON, His Eyes Open. I'm Eric Kelly from KellyPlanet.com. Live long and prosper.